Hi and welcome back to my channel. I'm Mary Jo, also known as Sojo, and this is where I talk about all my quilty stitchy things. Today is June 17th, 2023, and this is my weekly update, number 21, where I talk about everything I've worked on, done, completed during the week, with a previous finish or two along the way, like the quilt behind me. Now, the quilt behind me was a pattern that was from the Fons and Porter's Love of Quilting magazine, and I couldn't find the actual pattern, but I found this. So it was After the Storm, and it was quilt designed by Susan Emerson. So I know the pattern came in a Fons and Porter's magazine, and this one was this was May, June 2014 was when this issue. And this is just them advertising the kit. So it was around in there when that would have came out. Now, this is one of my older quilts, and we'll go in and take a look at it. So there's an up close at the quilt a little bit. I'll flip it over so you can take a look at the back. But it was just stitched in the ditch, because this was before the long arm. And on the backing, I just use a fleece with no quilt batting and just the fleece on the back. So when I first started quilting, I did a lot of quilts like that with no batting and just the fleece on the back, because number one, it saved me some money, and the fleece, my kids liked the fleece close to them. So that's how I quilted a lot of my quilts when I first started quilting. I don't really do that anymore, but when I first started quilting, that's what I did. So this week, I posted a video on finishing my graduation gnomes quilt, which I'll show that in a minute. I also was playing around and did a little video on me quilting on the long arm. Now I know that video was kind of rough, but I was just playing around trying to figure out some camera angles and that kind of stuff. It didn't really work too well, but there's always room for improvement. I will get better. Also, I was playing around with trying to figure out how to do a short, so I did that little video with that one quilt to some music to put a short out there. Now, I also released part 10 of my completed quilts trunk show. So I have about 2 more quilts that are done, but I'm going to wait until I have 10, and then I'll be releasing part 11. I just have a bunch of bindings to put on some things before I get there. Also, last week I announced my giveaway. So, I know you all want to know who the winner is. So I did just do a random comment picker to get my winner. And the winner is Colleen at Green Quilts Galore. And her comment said, "Congratulations on 500 subscribers. My favorite color is not blue, but green. How kind of your husband. Thank you both." So it makes sense why she's Green Quilts Galore if she likes green quilts. Well, congratulations, Colleen. What I need you to do is I just need you to email me, please. My email is always in the description box of all my videos, but it's sewjoquilts@gmail.com. Sojo is SEWJO. And as soon as you do that, I will get that gift card off to you, that $50 Fat Quarter Shop gift card. Now, what I need in your email is just for you to tell me your first and last name and your email address. And also in your comment, I noticed that you've had some use in favorite in color, which is usually not something we do here in the United States, but I know other countries do. So if you wouldn't mind, if you would just tell me where you're from, I would just be curious to know. Just so anything I do in my future, I know to include those countries. And also, if anybody is watching outside of the US, if you wouldn't mind telling me in the comments below where you're watching from, I'd really appreciate it. Okay, now, what did I quilt on the long arm this week? Let me show you. Now, this is the quilt I put on the long arm this week. And it was a pattern called Amethyst. And it was from the Fawns and Porter's Love of Quilting magazine. Looks like the January-February 2018 issue. And it was designed by, let me see, Christina McCourt. So there's a look at that. And then that's mine. So that's the only quilt I quilted this week, but we'll come in and take a little closer look at the quilting. And I quilted it with this flower pantograph. So there's a look at that pantograph. There you can start to see a flower in there. And I'll flip it over and take a look at the back here in just a second. And we do have that border over there. All right, let's take a look at that back. And there's that flower popping out right there. That's what the back looks like. Now this quilt was made, the quilt top was made several years ago, and I just got around to quilting it. When I had done that, I always do my binding with it, and I had used this cream color binding is what I was going to use, and I'm like, I don't really like that. So I had lots of that purple backing left over, and I personally find that purple is usually a hard color to find a lot of variety in quilt stores. So my mom's favorite color is purple, so she took the rest of the purple backing, and then we found this from her stash that she gave me that I made binding. So I'm now going to put that on that. And one of those greens have polka dots in it. So I think that will work a lot better than this. Okay, now quilt tops. I finished 2 quilt tops this week. Let's take a look at those. So this is the first top I finished this week, which this was the pattern Wellington. And this was the pattern that I had you guys vote on for me a couple weeks ago, whether I should do the ocean or the dinosaurs, and everybody said the ocean theme. So I finished it. There it is. There's the binding. And when I get it on the long arm, I'm going to use this Seaside pantograph. I've had this pantograph for several years and never used it. But I think this is the quilt to use it on. I do have to get backing, but that's okay. I've got a lot of other quilts that can go on the long arm in the meantime. And this is the other quilt top I finished this week, which is my graduations gnomes. And I got this pantograph to quilt it. Has like the graduation caps and the diplomas. Let me take you in so you can see the top. And those are the top 2 blocks. And the bottom. Now, as I've said before, usually my husband hangs these up for me, and if he's not available, my son will do it. However, tomorrow's Father's Day, and next week is my son's birthday. He'll be 15. So they went to the movies, and I'm a klutz, so they were a little concerned about me hanging them all up. But I did it. No accidents. Yay! So let's talk about what else I pieced this week. So since I finished that ocean quilt, the next thing that I put in its place is going to be this kit and caboodle kit. Of course, it's not these Halloween-ish fabrics. They're this woodland type fabrics. Got this. So I've got all of this cut out. Got that fabric and that fabric. and this. And then we have all of these little squares here. Have this and this. Well, in the instructions in this, I was a bit confused, but I've got it figured out now. These big squares, well, they put these little panel things in here and said, well, if you stitched them together and used a scant 1/4 inch, it would bag out to the correct size. Well, the panels, even with them that had on top, didn't quite even get to that, so to get to the size they needed. So once you cut them and cut them, they were not going to be that size. So I was a little bit confused as to how to make them, because it was supposed to replace some of these blocks, these big squares. But I eventually figured out I could just take some of this and add like some little sashing there, and then the little sashing row between those two, and put them on top. So that's what I'm going to do. And also it gave me that, but it didn't give me the fabric for the borders. But I think I have enough of these little squares. Now if I put some sashing between, I might be able to make a border on the top and bottom of these little squares and sashing. And then use another fabric for the side borders. Maybe. We'll have to see. Either way, I'll figure something out. So that's the first thing I worked on. So I got that all together, and I got some strip sets pinned together that is tan and green. There we go. So that's one of the quilts I worked on this week. I was really trying to get that ocean quilt done, and there was one other that I was trying to get done, which I didn't quite do that, but I'll show that in a minute. The other thing, well, one of the other things I worked on as well is just that unraveled pattern. And this has many different borders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different borders on it. And I'm going to put them all on there because I have the fabric, so why not? But, so this is probably going to take a while to get all those 6 borders on there. Especially with the way I do it. Because I work on several quilts at a time. So next time, you know, this is up to go to the sewing machine, I'll sew this, then, you know, get it pressed and penned, and then put away until the next time. And only doing that in my rotation, it's going to take a while to get all those borders on. But I'll get it done eventually. I always do. So that was another quilt I worked on. I also worked on this sew sampler. This petunias pattern. And this is going to be 42.5 by 48.5 when it's done. Because I'm going to do this. Or you could have done the 3 table runners. But I'm much more of a quilt. I'm not too big on table runners. That's just me. I mean, occasionally I'll do them, especially if they're in a sew sampler box. But I much prefer just to do an actual quilt. And that's just personal preference. But I got some of those blocks done. Now these are pinned, so I still have to sew those. But I got the flower and the stem done. And then just got it pinned together. So the next time I go to the sewing machine, I can sew that. So there's 6 of these. number 6. And then the other flower blocks, I have to sew that blue side strip onto each. So I've got it pinned. And then I've got 6 of these. And yes, once again, I overly pin everything. Was it really necessary to pin this strip on here? Probably not. Definitely not. But I like to do it because, as I said before, I'm just kind of weird and I like to pin. And if that's what gives me joy, why not? Everybody should do what works for them, and I don't want to miss out on my thing that I think's fun is pinning. I know in cross stitch, there was a cross stitch pattern going around that says, "This proves that I have the patience to stab things 1,000 times." Well, I think all my pinning proves I have more patience than that. All right. Here's another block. Maybe the pinning helps me get my frustrations out on life as I can stab it. I don't know. And these are just the bottoms for that. So that's what else I worked on. And this was the other quilt I was trying to get done. Didn't quite happen, but we'll see. Maybe we can get it this week. This is this 4th of July Americana themed quilt. And since 4th of July is just around the corner, I was trying to get it done. And then I have this Stars and Stripes pantograph I was going to use to quilt it. But there's that. So it's not, the rows aren't quite sewn together. As you can see, those are pinned. So I just need to sew those. And then I've got an inner border and an outer border to put on it. And this was one of the 5-yard bundle kits that I had bought at Polar Fabric in Indiana, where you got 5 1-yard bundles of fabric, and then you get to pick a pattern from it, and there were several different patterns to choose from. And this is what I chose. But I think it's really cute, and I like it. So that's all done. Whether I get the top done before 4th of July, who knows? But I probably won't get it quilted by then anyway. But I can try. And there's always next year. All right, and then I worked on one other quilt project. Move this stuff around here. And again, me and my messes. I worked on this Country Roads pattern. So I've sewn all of these blocks together. I still have to press them, but I've got these units sewn together. And I've got all of these sewn together. I still have to press them, but take this unit and put one on each side, this here, and then we take one of those other units and put on the other side. Since I've got these all still clipped together, it's hard to show, but then that will go down there, and then I'll put them together into this. And this quilt, when it's done, it will measure 77 by 93. Okay, so that's everything I worked on this week as far as quilting. Let me give you a little glimpse at cross stitch. So again, this is what I've been working on, this Christmas Big Band Sampler which is quite large because I've been working on 16 count. So it's been very large. I am right here starting on this bell row. Last week I was up in here. So let me show you this project. Now this bell row is going to be the last that I do on this particular piece of fabric. Because as I said before, I knew this was going to be a very large piece and I was splitting it into 2 separate pieces. So, but here we go. Bring it on down. There we go. Last week I was finishing the stars right there, I think, in there. And now I'm started on that first bell. So I'm going to work that bell all the way over. And then that's going to be the end for this piece. And the rest I'm going to work on a whole nother piece. But after I get done with that bell, I'm getting kind of tired of it, so I need a break. So I'm going to work on this, which came from my Stitch Quarterly that I did an unboxing on. So I'm going to do this pattern on this fabric, which I believe is a Fabric Flare 14 count. And then once I get done with this, I will go back to that huge big band sampler. So this shouldn't take me as nearly as long as that's been taking. Alright, I was going to show you a previous finish, but since how this video is already 22 minutes long, I think I'll pass until next week. Now, let's work on or show you crochet. So I had shown you that I'd finished that sweater I had been working on, and I was just trying to use the rest of the yarn, and I'd made 2 hats. Well, I still had just a little bit yarn left, so I made me a waffle stitch hat. There we go. So, and I did end up using the rest of that yarn. So I accomplished my goal. Then I said I was going to work on another sweater using this yarn. But before I could do that, my daughter wanted me to make one of these little amigurumi kits. Now I have several of these that I had bought at Hobby Lobby a while ago, and my daughter likes these little things. So I made her this one, and I'll show you the cow. There he is. So I made him. I guess it's a her. Her name's Dottie. Now, the only thing I will say about these kits is I inevitably run out of at least one color of the yarn, if not 2. So, I ran out of this white yarn, and since these were supposed to be gray and then white, one of the legs is just completely gray. And the hair up here, there's his horns, but the hair up here was supposed to be both gray and black. But I didn't have any more gray because I used it to make the leg, so I just made the hair black. So, I made it work. So there's her little cow, so she can have that back with its little, she called derpy face there. Okay, now I did start on my sweater though, or my cardigan. And what I'm making now is this Cabernet cardigan from Lether Co. Haven't got very far. Now this is only a sock weight, #1 weight, so it's going to take a while to get there. But that's all I've done so far. That's the back. Here, this will be the front. Now I have made this cardigan before, so I know the pattern works up well. So I should be good with sizing. All right. So that's what I worked with on crochet. One more thing to show you. And this is my diamond painting progress. We're getting there. I did these 2 sections this week. Now that diamond painting is from Diamond Art Club, which is my favorite diamond painting company. Okay, so that's everything I've worked on this week. Till next time. Bye!